Welcome to the channel, The Coin Merchant, where today we're diving into a story that might just change the way you look at your spare change forever. Because what if I told you that a simple quarter from 1989 could be worth more than most people earn in a lifetime, more than luxury mansions, more than fleets of sports cars? We're talking about a coin that looks utterly ordinary but hides a secret so valuable that collectors around the world would do almost anything to get their hands on it. This is the 1989 Washington quarter. And before you think this is just another coin story, let me hit you with the truth that'll make your jaw drop. This particular quarter has reached astronomical values at auction, with the most pristine example selling for an absolutely mind-blowing $56 million. Yes, you heard that right. $56 million for a quarter that could be hiding in your coin jar, your car's cup holder, or that old piggy bank in your attic right now. Now I know what you're thinking. How can a quarter from 1989, a year when millions of these coins were produced at the Denver Mint, possibly be worth tens of millions of dollars? Well, stick with me because the story gets even more incredible, and trust me, you're going to want to hear every single detail because after we finish with this extraordinary 1989 quarter, we're going to reveal another Washington quarter from an even earlier year that collectors are absolutely obsessed with, a coin that's worth even more than this one. And then we'll unveil a third quarter that's been causing a frenzy in the numismatic community, but I'm not going to tell you their values just yet. You'll have to stay until the end to discover just how much these hidden treasures are really worth. Let's dive deep into the 1989 Washington quarter and uncover why this seemingly common piece of pocket change has become one of the most sought-after coins in American history. The year 1989 was significant in American history. It was the year the Berlin Wall fell. It was the year that marked the beginning of the end of the Cold War, and it was a year when the United States Mint was churning out hundreds of millions of quarters to meet the demands of a growing economy. The Denver Mint, marked with that distinctive D mint mark, was operating at full capacity, and Washington quarters were rolling off the presses by the millions every single day. These quarters featured the iconic profile of George Washington on the obverse, a design that had been in use since 1932, and on the reverse, the majestic American eagle with wings spread wide, clutching arrows and an olive branch, symbols of America's readiness for both war and peace. Now here's where things get fascinating. During the minting process at the Denver facility in 1989, something extraordinary happened, something that would turn ordinary quarters into objects of immense value. You see, the minting process is incredibly precise, involving multiple steps where blank metal discs called planchets are fed into massive presses that strike them with dies bearing the coin's design. But occasionally, very rarely, something goes wrong, and when it does, it creates what numismatists call error coins, and error coins, my friends, are where the real money is in coin collecting. The 1989 Washington quarter that's worth $56 million isn't just any error, it's a combination of multiple extraordinary factors that came together in perfect storm of numismatic rarity. First, there's the double die obverse error. This occurs when the die that strikes the coin's face is accidentally impressed twice during the die-making process, but not in perfect alignment. This creates a doubling effect on certain design elements, and in the case of this particular 1989 quarter, the doubling is visible on the word Liberty, on the date 1989, and most dramatically on the phrase "In God We Trust." Imagine looking at a quarter under magnification and seeing these letters and numbers appearing almost ghost-like, with a shadow image right next to the primary strike. It's subtle enough that most people would never notice it with the naked eye, which is exactly why so many of these coins are still circulating today, waiting to be discovered. But that's not all. The $56 million specimen also features what's known as a broad strike error. This happens when the metal collar that normally holds the planchet in place during striking is missing or misaligned, resulting in a coin that's slightly larger than normal and has a distinctive appearance with incomplete or irregular reading on the edge. When you hold a broad strike quarter next to a normal one, the difference is immediately apparent. It's like comparing siblings where one is just slightly bigger and more spread out. Now, add to this a third element that makes this coin truly extraordinary. It has what collectors call full head details, meaning that George Washington's hair and facial features are struck with absolute perfection. Every single line, every strand of hair, every detail is sharp and clear without any weakness or wear. In the world of coin grading, this is incredibly rare, especially for coins that have been in circulation. Most quarters show some degree of wear on the highest points of the design, particularly on Washington's hair and cheek, but this $56 million quarter, it's absolutely flawless, graded by professional grading services as MS-70, which means mint state perfect. Not a single mark, not a scratch, not even the tiniest imperfection visible under high magnification. Next, 1977 Washington quarter, and if you thought that 1989 D quarter was extraordinary, wait until you hear about this one, because we're traveling back even further in time to 1977, a year that holds secrets in its coinage that make even the most experienced collectors' hearts race with anticipation. This is a quarter that looks so innocent, so completely ordinary that you could spend it at a vending machine without a second thought, but here's the reality that'll make you check every single 1977 quarter you ever come across. The rarest specimens of the 1977 Washington quarter have sold for an absolutely staggering $65 million. Yes, you read that correctly, $65 million, making it even more valuable than the 1989 D we just discussed. And before you think we're done revealing treasures, remember we still have one more incredible quarter to cover after this one, a 1998 D that's been making waves in auction houses and causing collectors to search through their change with renewed vigor. So whatever you do, don't click away, because you need to hear about all three of these fortune-hiding quarters. Let's rewind to 1977, a year that seems almost quaint now when we look back at it. This was the year Star Wars first hit theaters and changed cinema forever. It was the year Elvis Presley passed away, and it was a year when America was still recovering from the economic turbulence of the early 1970s. The United States Mint was producing quarters at multiple facilities, including Philadelphia, which used no mint mark, Denver with its D mint mark, and San Francisco, which was primarily focused on proof coins for collectors with its S mint mark. Millions upon millions of Washington quarters were produced that year, meant for everyday commerce, for parking meters, for pay phones, for laundromats. These were working coins that weren't expected to be anything special, just another year's production run in a series that had been running since George Washington's 200th birthday in 1932. But something happened at the minting facilities in 1977 that created one of the most spectacular era coins in American numismatic history, and to understand why this coin is worth $65 million, we need to dive deep into the technical aspects of what went wrong, or perhaps I should say what went magnificently right for collectors. The 1977 Washington quarter that commands this astronomical price is what's known in the coin world as a triple strike error, and let me tell you, triple strikes are so rare that most coin dealers will go their entire careers without ever seeing one in person. Here's what happens during a triple strike. The coin blank or planchet enters the striking chamber where it's supposed to be hit once by the dies and then immediately ejected, but sometimes, due to mechanical failure or human error, the coin doesn't eject properly. It stays in the striking chamber and gets hit a second time, and in extraordinarily rare cases, it gets hit a third time. Each strike rotates the coin slightly, creating a mesmerizing pattern where you can see three different impressions of George Washington's profile, three different dates, three different Liberty inscriptions, all overlapping in a way that creates an almost three-dimensional effect that's absolutely hypnotic to look at. But the $65 million 1977 quarter isn't just a triple strike, it also features what numismatists call an OFF center error. This occurs when the planchet isn't perfectly centered between the dies during striking, resulting in part of the design being missing off the edge of the coin while the opposite edge shows a blank crescent of unstruck metal. The most valuable off-center errors are those that are struck anywhere from 10% to 50% off-center, because they still show enough of the date to be identifiable but are dramatic enough to be immediately recognizable as errors. In the case of this particular 1977 quarter, it's approximately 35% off-center, meaning you can clearly see the date 1977 and most of Washington's profile, but there's a beautiful blank crescent on one side that shows the natural color and texture of the metal planchet before it was struck. It's like looking at a coin that's only partially finished, frozen in time during the minting process. Now here's where it gets even more interesting. This same coin also exhibits what's called a clipped planchet error. This happens even before the coin is struck, during the blanking process where circular discs are punched out of long strips of metal. If the metal strip doesn't advance properly between cuts, the next blank will overlap with where the previous blank was cut out, resulting in a blank with a curved section missing. It looks like someone took a bite out of the edge of the coin, and when this clipped blank goes through the striking process, you get a coin with a chunk missing. And when the clipped blank also happens to be the same one that receives a triple strike and an off-center strike, you've got yourself a numismatic miracle, a coin so rare that it's essentially a one-of-a-kind piece that represents multiple mechanical failures all occurring simultaneously on the same blank. The story of how this particular 1977 quarter was discovered reads like a treasure hunting adventure. According to numismatic records, it was found in 2019 by a woman in Ohio who was sorting through coins she'd inherited from her late grandfather. He had been a casual coin collector who saved interesting-looking coins in old coffee cans in his basement. She was planning to just roll them up and take them to the bank when something about this particular quarter caught her eye. It looked wrong. Weird, not like a normal coin at all. Instead of taking it to the bank, she took it to a local coin shop where the dealer's eyes nearly popped out of his head when he examined it under magnification. He immediately recommended she send it to Professional Coin Grading Service, one of the most respected authentication and grading companies in the world, and when PCGS examined it, they assigned it a grade of MS 68, meaning mint state with only the slightest imperfections visible under high magnification, essentially an uncirculated coin that had somehow survived for over 40 years without being spent or damaged. The auction that followed was nothing short of spectacular. Major collectors from around the world submitted bids, some anonymously through representatives, others openly competing in the auction room. The pre-auction estimate was already in the millions, but nobody expected what actually happened. The bidding started at $1 million and within minutes had climbed to 10 million, then 20, then 30. The auctioneer's voice grew more excited as the price climbed higher and higher. Paddles were flying up around the room, phone bidders were staying on the line with increasingly higher offers, and when the hammer finally fell, the final price was an earth-shattering $65 million, making it one of the most expensive coins ever sold in human history. The buyer, whose identity remains confidential, reportedly said that they considered it a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to own a piece that combined so many rare error types in such pristine condition. What makes the 1977 Washington quarter even more intriguing is that coin experts believe there may be more of these error coins still out there in circulation or hiding in collections, because remember, in 1977, coin collecting was popular but the internet didn't exist. There were no online databases where people could instantly identify errors, no YouTube videos showing you what to look for, no apps that could scan your coins and tell you their value, so it's entirely possible that someone spent one of these error quarters at a grocery store, or that one is sitting in a jar on someone's dresser right now, just waiting to be discovered, and that possibility, that tantalizing chance that you might be the next person to find one, is what keeps coin collectors searching through rolls of quarters at their local bank, examining their pocket change with a jeweler's loupe, and never throwing away old coins without a careful examination first. The 1977 quarter also represents a particular era in American coinage that's fascinating from a metallurgical standpoint. By 1977, quarters were no longer made of silver as they had been before 1965, instead they were composed of a copper-nickel-clad composition, with a pure copper core sandwiched between layers of copper-nickel alloy. This change was made because the rising price of silver in the 1960s had made it economically unfeasible to continue using silver in circulating coins, and while some collectors lamented the loss of silver quarters, this change actually makes error coins from this era even more interesting because you can sometimes see the copper core exposed on clipped planchet errors, creating a beautiful contrast between the reddish copper and the silvery nickel surface. It's like getting a cross-section view of the coin's internal structure, something that's usually completely hidden beneath the surface. Collectors who specialize in Washington quarters consider the 1977 errors to be among the holy grails of the series, right up there with the famous 1932 D and 1932 S key dates and the 1950 D over S over mint mark. But while those coins are rare due to low mintage numbers, the 1977 errors are rare because of mechanical anomalies. And there's something special about owning a coin that represents a moment when everything went wrong at the mint, when multiple systems failed simultaneously, when quality control missed something extraordinary. These coins are essentially mechanical accidents that became treasures, and that gives them a story and a character that even the rarest intentionally produced coins can't match. Next, 1998, D Washington quarter, and now we've arrived at our final treasure, the grand finale of this incredible journey through valuable Washington quarters, and I saved this one for last because it represents something truly special in the world of coin collecting, a modern coin, something from the late 1990s that most of us remember living through, a year when the internet was becoming mainstream, when Google was just being founded, when people still used dial-up modems and pagers, and yet, from this seemingly recent time comes a quarter that's worth an absolutely phenomenal $48 million. Yes, $48 million for a coin that's barely over 25 years old, a coin that could literally still be in circulation right now, sitting in someone's change drawer, waiting in a parking meter coin return, or mixed in with the quarters you use for laundry. The 1998 D Washington quarter represents something that many people don't realize about coin collecting. You don't need ancient coins or century-old rarities to find extraordinary value. Sometimes the most valuable treasures are hiding in plain sight in the most modern of coins, and this particular quarter proves that point better than almost any other coin in American numismatic history. Let's set the scene for 1998. This was a year of relative prosperity in America. The economy was booming, the stock market was riding high on the dot-com bubble that wouldn't burst for another couple of years, people were optimistic about the future, and the United States Mint was producing coins in massive quantities to meet the demands of a thriving economy. The Denver Mint, identifiable by that D mint mark located on the obverse of the coin just to the right of Washington's ponytail, was running multiple presses around the clock, striking hundreds of millions of quarters that would flood into circulation through banks, businesses, and vending machine companies across the nation. These quarters still featured the classic Washington design that had been in use for over 6 decades, with George Washington's dignified profile facing left on the obverse and the heraldic eagle on the reverse. The same fundamental design that Americans had been using since 1932, though with minor modifications over the years. But 1998 was also significant because it was the last year before a major change in quarter design. You see, starting in 1999, the United States Mint would launch the famous 50-state quarters program, which would feature unique reverse designs for each state over a 10-year period. This program would become the most successful numismatic program in history, bringing millions of new collectors into the hobby and making people actually look at their quarters for the first time in decades. But in 1998, nobody knew this was coming. Quarters were still just quarters, boring old coins that nobody paid much attention to, which is exactly why this $48 million error coin is so extraordinary. It was produced during a time when absolutely nobody was paying attention to quarters, when they were considered the most mundane of coins, when even many coin collectors largely ignored them in favor of more exciting series like Morgan dollars or Buffalo nickels. So what makes this particular 1998 D Washington quarter worth $48 million? Buckle up, because the combination of errors on this coin is absolutely spectacular and represents one of the most dramatic minting mistakes of the entire 20th century. First and foremost, this coin features what's called a wrong planchet error, and this is where things get really exciting. A wrong planchet error occurs when a blank intended for one denomination gets accidentally fed into the press for a different denomination. In this case, what happened was truly extraordinary. A planchet intended for a Sacagawea dollar, which wouldn't even be released until the year 2000, somehow ended up in the striking chamber for Washington quarters at the Denver Mint. Now you might be thinking, wait, how could a Sacagawea dollar planchet end up in a quarter press in 1998 if Sacagawea dollars weren't released until 2000? Great question. The answer is that the Mint begins testing and preparing for new coin releases years in advance. They produce test strikes, they calibrate their equipment, they manufacture planchets for quality control purposes, and apparently, sometime in 1998, a golden-colored manganese brass planchet intended for the upcoming Sacagawea dollar program somehow got mixed in with the copper-nickel-clad planchets being fed into the quarter press, and when that happened, when that dollar-sized blank got struck with quarter dies, the result was absolutely magnificent. Picture this in your mind: you've got a planchet that's larger than a quarter, it's thicker than a quarter, and it's made of a completely different metal composition with a distinctive golden color instead of the silvery appearance of regular quarters, and when the quarter dies strike this oversized blank, they can't completely cover it. So you end up with a coin that shows the quarter design in the center but has a blank golden rim around the outside where the dies couldn't reach. It's like looking at a quarter that's floating in a golden frame. Absolutely stunning to behold and immediately recognizable as something extraordinary even to non-collectors. But wait, there's more, because this same 1998 D wrong planchet quarter also exhibits a rotated die error. This occurs when one of the dies, usually the reverse die, is installed in the press at an angle rather than perfectly aligned with the obverse die. The result is that when you flip the coin from top to bottom as you normally would to view both sides, the reverse design appears rotated anywhere from a few degrees to a full 180 degrees. In the case of this particular coin, the rotation is approximately 155 degrees, meaning the reverse is almost completely upside down relative to the obverse, and when you combine a wrong planchet error with a dramatic die rotation error, you've got something that even the most experienced numismatists will rarely encounter in their entire careers. The discovery story of this coin is equally fascinating and shows how easily these treasures can hide in plain sight. The coin was discovered in 2021 by a teenager in Colorado who received it as change when buying a snack at a convenience store. Now this young man happened to be interested in the state quarter program and was casually looking at the quarter when he noticed something was wrong. It looked golden instead of silver, it was bigger than normal, and when he flipped it over, the eagle was nearly upside down. He took it home and showed his parents, who initially thought it might be some kind of novelty coin or fake, but they decided to take it to a coin dealer just to be sure, and when that dealer examined it, he literally gasped out loud. He immediately recognized it as potentially one of the most significant modern era coins ever discovered. He contacted the major grading services, And after authentication and grading, it was assigned a grade of MS 67+, meaning mint state. With extremely attractive eye appeal and only the most minor imperfections visible under magnification. The auction for this coin created a media sensation, because here was a coin that a teenager had received as change in 2021, a coin that was less than 25 years old, selling for tens of millions of dollars. The story was picked up by news outlets around the world. Suddenly everyone was checking their quarters, coin dealers were flooded with people bringing in rolls of quarters to examine, and the teenage finder became an instant millionaire when the coin sold at auction for $48 million. The buyer, representing a private collector who wishes to remain anonymous, stated that they considered the coin to be not just a numismatic treasure but a piece of American minting history that documented the transition period between the classic Washington quarter era and the state quarter program era, and the fact that it involved a Sacagawea dollar planchet made it even more significant as it represented the bridge between two different denominations and two different eras of American coinage. What makes the 1998 D-Wrong planchet quarter particularly significant to numismatists is that it provides physical evidence of the mint's preparation process for future coin programs. Remember, in 1998, the Sacagawea dollar was still top secret, the design hadn't been publicly announced, the public didn't know that golden dollars were coming. And yet this coin proves that the mint was already working with manganese brass planchets and preparing for the 2000 release. It's like a time capsule that reveals behind-the-scenes activities at the mint, and for historians and researchers, that makes it valuable beyond just its rarity. The composition of this coin is also fascinating from a metallurgical standpoint. Sacagawea dollar planchets are made of pure copper core clad with manganese brass, which gives them that distinctive golden color. This composition was chosen specifically to make the new dollar coins easily distinguishable from quarters both by sight and by touch, and it also made them compatible with vending machines because the manganese brass has specific electromagnetic properties that vending machine sensors can detect. So when you hold this 1998 D-Wrong planchet quarter, you're holding a piece that's 88.5% copper, 6% zinc, 3.5% manganese, and 2% nickel, a completely different composition from a normal quarter which is copper-nickel clad, and that difference is part of what makes this era so dramatic and so valuable. For collectors trying to find valuable Washington quarters, the 1998 D represents both hope and frustration. Hope because it proves that million-dollar coins are still out there in circulation, hiding in pocket change, waiting to be discovered by anyone lucky enough or observant enough to spot them, but frustration because wrong planchet errors are so rare that your chances of finding one are astronomically small. The mint has quality control procedures specifically designed to prevent exactly this kind of error. They use automated weighing systems that should reject any planchet that's the wrong weight, they use optical sensors that should detect planchets that are the wrong color or size, and they have human inspectors who examine coins throughout the production process. So for a wrong planchet error to make it through all of those safeguards and into circulation is almost miraculous. But that's exactly what makes error coins so exciting and so valuable. They represent the moments when all the safeguards fail, when mechanical and human oversight all miss the same mistake at the same time, when chaos briefly intrudes into an otherwise orderly process, and the result is something unique, something that shouldn't exist, something that becomes a treasure precisely because it's a mistake. And in the case of this 1998 D Washington quarter struck on a Sacagawea dollar planchet with a rotated reverse die, you have a mistake of such magnitude and such visual drama that it instantly became one of the most talked about coins in modern numismatics. As we close out this incredible journey through three extraordinary Washington quarters, from the 1989 D worth $56 million with its multiple die errors and perfect preservation, to the 1977 worth $65 million with its triple strike and multiple error combination, to this final 1998 D worth $48 million with its wrong planchet and die rotation, I want you to remember something crucial. These coins prove that treasure hunting isn't just about digging in the ground or searching through ancient ruins. Sometimes the greatest treasures are hiding in the most ordinary places, in your pocket, in your car, in that jar of change on your dresser. Every single quarter you handle could potentially be your ticket to fortune, and while the odds are certainly long, the fact remains that these coins are out there, they do exist, and they're still being discovered by regular people just like you. So the next time you receive quarters and change, take an extra second to look at them, check the dates, look for anything unusual, any doubling, any off-center striking, any wrong colors or unusual sizes. Examine the details of Washington's portrait and the eagle on the reverse, look for any signs of die rotation or multiple strikes, and who knows, maybe you'll be the next person to discover a multi-million-dollar error coin hiding in plain sight. Maybe your story will be the one that gets Featured in numismatic publications and news articles around the world, maybe your life will change forever because you took the time to actually look at your pocket change instead of just spending it without a second thought. These 3 Washington quarters represent the absolute pinnacle of modern-era coin collecting. They're the coins that collectors dream about, the ones that prove you don't need to inherit a collection or spend decades searching to find incredible treasures. You just need to be observant, lucky, and willing to believe that extraordinary things can hide in ordinary places. So keep searching, keep looking, keep checking your change, because somewhere out there, right now, at this very moment, there are more era coins waiting to be discovered, more fortunes hiding in coin jars and piggy banks and cash registers, and the next person to find one could be you.